wrapping up on Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the folks at Sonic Team were tired and ready to take a break from making games about the character that they were named after to focus on other ideas, and I really don't blame them. If I were tasked with making Sonic 1, 2, CD, 3, and Knuckles within a 4-year time period, I would also want time off from that insanity. So Sonic Team went to work on new concepts, while the people at America's Sega Technical Institute were given the illustrious opportunity to make the next big Sonic game, and with 3D gaming just on the horizon, things were going to be massive. Sonic 16 was a stealth game based on the Sonic SatAM TV series. Sonic Mars was going to bring the blue blur to Sega's 32X add-on for the Sega Genesis and would be a 3D platformer. Don't even get me started on the various pitches like Sonic Doom and Sonic Boom. Oh god, I'm gonna have to talk about Sonic Boom at some point. Sonic Extreme. Okay, what can I say that hasn't already been said? I could easily make a 3-hour video essay going into the pure insanity that was Extreme's development. But long story short, it would have been Sonic's big 3D game for the Sega Saturn that was cancelled after missing multiple deadlines and the two most important people on the project falling ill. Also, can't forget being sabotaged by then aspiring convict Yuji Naka. Finally, after all of that, Sonic Team were ready to make a new Sonic game and shifted focus from the outgoing Saturn hardware to the shiny brand new Sega Dreamcast and have it ready for the system's launch, which, damn it, here in America, the game was able to meet the launch date, and on 9/9/99, Sonic Adventure raced into the homes of proud new Dreamcast owners. Sonic Adventure has since been re-released multiple times, and god, does Sega not know how to port this game. So for complete transparency up front, I'm playing the Steam port of the game with the better SADX mod pack installed, which just restores a lot of the cut content or altered stuff from the Dreamcast original, while also adding in some quality of life improvements. But don't worry, outside of those, I won't be using any other mods for the sake of providing a Dreamcast accurate experience.
Ah! No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
On top of bringing the series into 3D, Adventure also introduces a larger story which is split amongst 6 campaigns. These all work fine when viewed separately. Trying to put them all together is the tricky bit, so let's try and start off with the plot synopsis. One night on Angel Island, Knuckles is just chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, when the Master Emerald suddenly shatters with this water monster emerging along with this ball of light. Knuckles is powerless to do anything as Angel Island plummets into the ocean below, right next to the Mystic Ruins. Cut to everybody's favorite blue ball of pain who is hopping from rooftop to rooftop in Station Square, who now rocks an updated design. Going into this game, the entire cast were given updated designs to better match this new era. Honestly, I like pretty much all of these. I think it gives them more life and personality and makes them feel more hip and cool. Except Amy, I have to be honest, I hate the hoop skirt. It just never looked good to me. Also, it leads to one too many panty shots that I am comfortable with. Sonic notices the police chasing that water monster from earlier, which the game now informs us is called Chaos. After giving it a good bop, it flees, with Dr. Robotnik laughing maniacally overhead. The next day, Sonic is just vibing by the pool when he spots Tails crash landing his new experimental plane that was being powered by a Chaos Emerald. Tails invites Sonic to his workshop in the Mystic Ruins, where they run into Dr. Robotnik, who Sonic refers to as Eggman. Over in Japan, he was always called Dr. Eggman. Dr. Robotnik was something that we cheeseburger freedom-loving Americans came up with to make him sound more menacing, but from here on out, it's Dr. Eggman. Sonic and Tails make quick work of the Doctor, but he manages to swipe the emerald from Tails and feeds it to Chaos, who gets bigger and stronger. It's clear that Dr. Eggroll's plans is to gather these 7 emeralds and unleash Chaos's true power so that he can destroy Station Square and build Robotnik Land, so it's up to Sonic and Tails to gather the rest of the emeralds. From here, the process of gathering the next few emeralds plays out roughly the same each time. Eggplant manages to take a second emerald from Sonic and Tails after some late-night gambling, before then taking the next 2 after he tricks Knuckles into thinking Sonic was after the pieces of the Master Emerald. After another fight with Chaos, Egg Custard reveals the Egg Carrier, a massive fortress that can hold so many raw eggs you wouldn't believe. Knuckles continues his search for the Master Emerald pieces while Sonic and Tails take the tornado in an attempt to board the Egg Carrier, only to be shot down and separated. From here is where the stories of all 6 characters start to go off and things can get messy really quick, so let's try to keep this concise. Sonic runs into Amy, who is helping this baby bird find their parents before she's abducted by this robot and taken prisoner aboard the Egg Carrier. Tails goes off on a somewhat reflective quest as he comes to the realization that he owes a lot to the blue hedgehog. After chasing down this frog that swallowed a Chaos Emerald, Tails is nearly eaten whole by this purple fuck. This is Big the Cat, a resident of the Mystic Ruins whose contributions to this story are minimal at best. So his best friend is this frog named Froggy, who swallows a Chaos Emerald and a bit of chaos itself, and that is pretty much all there is to say about Big for now. The scare causes Tails to lose grip of the frog, but he manages to get the emerald back and uses it to power the Tornado 2. He heads to Angel Island and picks Sonic up so that they can finally board the egg carrier. After causing some ruckus for Dr. Egg Sandwich, the madman calls this robot to take care of them. This is E-102 Gamma, who honestly has probably the most interesting story arc of any character in this game. Gamma's story starts with him having to fight his older brother Beta, who is then sent away by Egg Salad, with Gamma and the other E-Series robots being tasked with capturing Froggy, to which Gamma succeeds at. The other E-Series robots are then beamed away, with Gamma finding Beta being taken apart and reworked to be stronger. He then has this interaction with Amy and the baby bird, where he then decides to set them free, and as thanks for that kind act, Amy convinces Sonic and Tails not to destroy Gamma, as he seems to have some sort of independence, where he eventually comes to the realization that Eggs Benedict is his enemy. I haven't mentioned this up till now, but at various points, each character will be halted by this ball of light which feeds them bits and pieces of backstory, focusing on the ancient Echidna tribe and their attempt at taking the Master Emerald for themselves. This is where we meet Tikal, who tries several times to get her father to call off the attack. This is because the Shrine of the Master Emerald is home to these little creatures called Chow, who dance and sing and are watched over by a guardian. Tails, Amy, and Gamma flee the egg carrier as Sonic, Knuckles, and Big, for some reason, fight Chaos, who is now in possession of 6 emeralds. Afterwards, Sonic chases his rotund adversary, as Knuckles takes the 6 Chaos Emeralds and returns to Angel Island. From here, the individual stories begin to wrap up. Tails stops Egg Tart from detonating a fucking missile in Station Square, and saves the day by himself. Knuckles restores the Master Emerald, which causes Angel Island to fly high into the sky once again. Gamma destroys the other E-Series robots to free the Flickies inside, including himself. Amy reunites the birdie with their family, and Big does big things. Finally, Sonic defeats Eggs in a Basket in his own base, which brings the story to a close. Well, almost. After clearing all 6 stories, a final 7th story unlocks, which wraps everything up, but I'll save talking about that for a little later in the video. I do think the individual themes of the stories are nice. For Sonic, it's just another Tuesday, but Tails learns to be more confident, Amy goes through a similar arc just over a shorter period of time, Knuckles learns about his ancestors, Gamma frees himself from his master's clutches, and Big exists. When it comes to presentation, specifically the cutscenes themselves, they aren't handled as well as they were in Sonic 3. These are still entertaining, just not for the right reasons. First off, PS1 games had better lip sync than this. The characters just flap their mouths like puppets, and they have maybe around 25 animations total that are repeated constantly. Like, from a quality standpoint, these are objectively terrible. Subjectively, I fucking love them. I have mimicked these on several occasions, like the gyration the characters do from time to time, because it's funny to me. Not to mention how the voice lines don't match the mouth movements at all. There is a reason that people such as Jet on YouTube have made such a name for themselves making custom cutscenes and then dubbing them over with various memes and shit. Speaking of the voice lines, this is the first Sonic game to give a serious go at voice acting, and it's fine, really serviceable. Ryan Drummond voices the Blue Porcupine, and I think he definitely needed some extra takes in a few places, but other than that, I think he does a fine job. He definitely gets better as the series goes on. Then there's Dean Bristow as Dr. Robotnik, who I think steals the show. He can be cartoonish and goofy at times, but then there are some really good menacing deliveries from him, especially in Tails' story, which houses what is to this day my favorite line ever said by the Doctor.
You fool. Away, before I make mincemeat out of you.
God damn. Then there's one casting in particular that baffles me as to how the stars aligned in such a way that allowed this to happen. You will never guess who on this blue and green planet voices Big the Cat.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
How did these motherfuckers get Duke Nukem, the most attitude-ridden, R-rated, manly man of the 90s, to voice Big the goddamn cat? At the end of the day, a game can have a great or terrible story, but it's ultimately the gameplay itself that can make or break a game. Kinda funny I'm saying that, even though I just spent a massive portion of the video talking about the story, but now, let's shift gears and tackle the more important side of this coin. As I stated earlier, the game is divided into 6 campaigns, with the 7th one unlocking after the main 6 have been completed. Each campaign allows you to take control of a different character, who all have unique gameplay styles that I feel lend themselves well to the fast-paced nature of a Sonic game. Except Big, but he can wait. Starting out, we can only play as Sonic, who goes exactly like how you think he would. He's the fastest, has a ton of movement options, and has the longest campaign out of any of the characters, lasting 10 stages. Sonic's physics aren't a one-to-one matchup with the Genesis titles, but there is still some momentum to the gameplay that honestly makes this fun to play. With enough speed, Sonic can run on walls and ceilings, and top that off with the spin dash, which has been jacked in this game. From a complete standstill, you can go zooming around, and you can chain this together very easily, allowing for exhilarating speeds to be met if you're skilled enough to maintain it. Sonic also gets some new tricks, as every character can find upgrades to enhance their abilities and give them new techniques. For Sonic, he can gain the Lightspeed Dash, allowing him to blaze across a trail of rings, but god, is the windup for this thing so long. You can fortunately get the Crystal Ring, which reduces the windup time drastically, but I feel this should have been a separate action on the controller, as it can be a pace breaker when used. Hi, so CeeCee of the future here. While editing, I realized I never mentioned the homing attack. It's kind of an important thing not to mention. Basically, it was brought in as a way to make hitting enemies in a 3D space easier. That's it. Sonic Adventure contains several levels for the characters to explore, around 11 in total, but in between are the adventure fields, which act as the hub world. Fortunately, these are rather easy to navigate for the most part. Station Square is tiny, the egg carrier might seem big, but it's honestly just a straight line. Lastly is the Mystic Ruins, which is the more open of them. The hub worlds have their own activities to partake in, such as this whack-a-mole minigame in the egg carrier Amy can play for some upgrades. Honestly, for the first time implementing hub worlds into these games, they did a pretty good job with them. I never get lost in them, and they have plenty to do. The real action is within the levels themselves, and there is a healthy variety of stage themes here. All characters share these stages, however, no one goes through all 11. Instead, the stages each character plays and the order that they're played in vary. I already mentioned Sonic goes through 10 stages, but Tails, Knuckles, and Gamma go through 5, Big has 4, and Amy can only access a measly 3. The monitors from the classic games have been replaced with these capsules that serve the same purpose. They contain rings, shields, extra lives, the stuff that you would expect. Although, oddly, they got rid of the elemental shields from Sonic 3 in favor of the bog standard shield. Well, the electric shield is here, but it doesn't protect you from electrical hazards anymore. It just draws in rings. Sonic's gameplay simply requires that he makes it to the end of this stage, which makes his campaign the most straightforward out of every other character. There's no other prerequisites, just get from point A to point B. Tails stages are a race to the finish where you typically need to beat Sonic to the end goal, and because he can fly, and a lot of these levels are open air, Tails winds up being the easiest character to play as in my opinion. Knuckles' gameplay sees him travel around in search of the pieces of the Master Emerald, where each stage has 3 shards for him to find. Fortunately, Knuckles has a radar to detect how close the emerald pieces are, and all 3 can be detected simultaneously. I do wonder if the radar is something inside Knuckles, like he has some sort of psychic link to the shards or something, although I also do enjoy the thought that his dreads are the radar, and that they point to where each shard is. Fortunately, if you know what you're doing, you can clear Knuckles stages really quick, which can make getting all 3 shards as fast as possible really fun. Amy is the slowest character of the bunch, as she has a running speed comparable to Mario in Mario 64, but she can't reverse her jumps to break into a parallel universe. She also can't curl into a ball, which leaves her pretty defenseless, so what makes Amy fun? Well, for starters, she has this massive hammer to bonk the fuck out of things, and while she may be slow, she is constantly being chased down by this robot throughout her stages, which keeps you on your toes. It's bizarre, but I think in this somewhat weird way, it works into the fast gameplay of a Sonic game, just in a very non-conventional way. Gamma's stages require that he reach the end within the allotted time limit, which can be extended by chaining enemy kills together, as Gamma, being one of Egg Foo Young's creations, has a gun and can take care of enemies from a distance, as well as lock on the multiple targets to chain enemy kills together. Honestly, the first few stages have a pretty generous time limit for Gamma, with it really only getting tight within the final 2. Then there's Big, whose gameplay is fishing. Your goal is to catch Froggy, which will automatically end the stage. However, there are other fish within the water who can be hooked onto your lure instead, which can be pretty fucking annoying. What also might take you a bit to realize, unless you read through the manual beforehand, is that in order to hook a fish, you need to hold back on the analog stick when they bite. I only bring this up because I forgot about this for the first few big stages, which led to... Oh, come on, you little fucker. Come on, anytime now. You can do it. Come on, get on there. Almost. Come here. Hey, get back in the water. It leads to big stages being such a pace breaker that he winds up being the only character I never look forward to playing. Emerald Coast is the introduction level for the game and is gone through as Sonic, Big, and Gamma. This is a fantastic first stage. The vibrant beach aesthetic makes us feel fun and inviting, while the level design itself is not too challenging. It also has this set piece in Sonic's run, where a killer whale chases the blue blur while destroying the path behind him. This becomes a trend, by the way. I expect to see this happen at least 2 more times in Sonic's 3D career. Windy Valley is played as Sonic, Tails, and Gamma, with the real big moment of this stage being the tornado Sonic gets sucked into and has to climb up out of in order to progress. Then there's the final section of the stage, which is really open, so Tails can just very easily cheese it. Casinopolis is the gambling level of the game with 2 different pinball boards to play on. First is this Sonic-themed one, which features a roulette wheel. The other is cards-based and is themed around Nights into Dreams, a Saturn game Sonic Team made after Sonic 3. This is my personal favorite of the two, as it's not only cool to see Nights representation in the game, but there's this section where Sonic gets to fly through a level from Nights. Ice Cap makes its return from Sonic 3, now in glorious 3D, and is explored by Sonic, Tails, and Big. The best part of this stage comes towards the end, where Sonic and Tails are snowboarding down this mountain trying to escape an avalanche. Although partway through, these fighter jets appear and start bombing the snow for some odd reason that I never quite got. Did Sonic and Tails commit war crimes? Is that why these jets are here? Twinkle Park is accessed as Sonic, Amy, and Big, and this is a pretty fun level. The theme park vibes are abundant, and the music in the main part makes this all the more enjoyable. Amy even gets to access a unique section of the level with these creepy mirror rooms. Speed Highway is hands down the best level in the game and is blasted through by Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Because of how open this stage is, it leads to a lot of opportunities for massive skips in the level if you're skilled enough to pull them off, and the game will even reward you with some goodies hidden away on optional paths. That's not even mentioning the segment where Sonic has to run down this skyscraper while avoiding helicopter blades. It's really cool. Red Mountain winds up being a somewhat middle-of-the-road stage to me, and is tackled by Sonic, Knuckles, and Gamma. The first part of the stage is open, with ziplines and rockets that'll take you up to higher portions of the level, with the second half going into the volcanic caverns where Sonic and Gamma need to avoid falling into the magma and getting cooked alive. Skydeck is one of the more treacherous stages in the game due to the first part of it being over a constant bottomless pit. This has gone through as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, with Knuckles himself being locked to the final part of the stage where he has to use this lever to tilt the entire stage to access various parts, which can be somewhat disorienting, but I never find it too troublesome. Lost World is a pretty okay Sonic game that, while some people do hate, I thought was fine, although it does feel more like a Mario game than a Sonic game, and, well, wait a minute, my notes got mixed up, hang on, Okay. Lost World is only gone through by Sonic and Knuckles, and is probably my least favorite stage in the game. This giant snake bit feels way too jittery for my comfort, and the section where you have to shine these lights at these mirrors to light a pathway for you is such a pace breaker. Final Egg is the base of operations for Eggs and Brains, and is gone through as Sonic, Amy, and Gamma. This winds up being the final stage for the two Hedgehogs, but what's cool is that this is Gamma's first stage and acts as a training ground for him. As Sonic, though, this ends up being the longest stage in the game, and definitely the most difficult, which I would expect. Lastly is Hot Shelter, which can only be played through as Amy, Gamma, and Big, and this feels like a filler stage in a way. It is the last stage Big goes through, but I'm pretty sure that's only because they couldn't find an excuse to put water in the sky deck. It's also Gamma's final stage, and I feel it's with him and only him that this stage actually shines with this unique trading segment that only Gamma goes through. At various points throughout the game, you'll be tasked with taking on different bosses, which come in 2 flavors, the standard boss fights and character battles. Let's start off with the character battles because, wow, these are pathetic. Remember how back in Sonic 3, the fight against Knuckles was piss easy, especially if you had Hypersonic for the fight? Well, here it's like that, but now the opponent barely fights back at all. Hell, if you know what you're doing, you can just juggle the character after beating them. It gets even more brain dead with Gamma, as he can just stand there and shoot, barely having to move at all. Then there are the more standard boss fights, which have a lot more required of the player, and these are definitely more fun to do, but because of how this game is structured, you'll wind up repeating some fights. Chaos 4 is the go-to example of this, as it's probably one of the more boring boss fights in the game, and you have to do it 3 times, once as Sonic, then as Tails, and then finally as Knuckles, and it's the exact same fight all 3 times. Chaos 6 is another one that's repeated 3 times, but at least with this one, it can be ended really quickly all 3 times if you know what to do, even with Big, where this is barely a fight at all. Speaking of stuff repeating, this Sky Chase minigame did not need 4 fucking plays. So here, Sonic and Tails take the tornado into this on-rails shooter segment where they need to chain enemy kills together while avoiding losing all of the tornado's health, and you have to do this twice as each character. If you ever want to take a break from the action, then there is a place for you to go for some relaxation. The Chow Garden houses these adorable little critters that you can raise throughout the course of the game, or abuse them, but I'm pretty sure that would make you worse than Stalin. You might have noticed that the flickies that are freed from the badniks after destroying them can be picked up by your character. Well, you can bring them to the Chow Garden and give them to your Chow to raise their various stats. Your Chow can participate in Chow races, and these will test the various stats of your Chow against CPU opponents, so how well your Chow does depends on their stats. You have little to no control over these, save for the ability to cheer your Chow on, which will give them a short boost of energy. One last thing in the Chow Garden is the Black Market, which allows you to spend your rings that you've acquired throughout the main game on items for your Chow, such as fruits and hats, or even new Chow eggs, with more rare items appearing as you earn more emblems in the game. Speaking of emblems, these are little rewards you get for completing levels in the game. Just by playing the game normally, you'll earn roughly around 45, but there are in total 130 to collect by doing optional, more difficult missions in every level, as well as various side challenges. Alright, now let's dive into the final story segment. Angel Island falls back down into the ocean for some unknown reason, with Chaos then forcefully taking the 6 emeralds Knuckles was guarding, with him even betraying the Doctor. Before Sonic and Tails can go secure the last emerald, this ball of light interrupts Sonic and shows him events from a millennia ago. It's here in the final story that we learn that the guardian of the emeralds and the Chow was Chaos, who grew enraged by the attack from the Knuckles clan and nearly destroyed the world, with the Call using the Master Emerald to seal both Chaos and herself within it. Then Sonic snaps back to reality as Tails notes that Sonic just kinda spaced the fuck out, with him having the most worried look on his face. Poor Tails probably thought Sonic's days of eating nothing but chili dogs finally caused him to have a stroke. Sonic and Tails rush off to get the last emerald, with Chaos swooping in and taking it before they can get it. We then cut to Station Square, where everything seems like it's just another normal day in the city, only for water to begin bursting out of every conceivable hole in the city. Not that anyone dies though, the moment Chaos begins to flood everything, these people all just vanish. Station Square is in ruins, and Chaos has become all-powerful, with Egg Drop Soup unable to quell the beast. Tikal appears and says that they must reseal Chaos now, but Sonic correctly points out that that won't fix his anger. All of Sonic's friends then show up as Tails mentions that Chaos only absorbed the negative energy of the emeralds, so with all 7 in hand, Sonic transforms into the all-powerful Super Sonic, who is really shiny in this game. I love it. Who then goes and teaches Chaos the meaning of friendship, the manual way, which of course means percussively. The final boss against Perfect Chaos is in 2 phases, with Super Sonic needing to maintain a high enough speed so that he can climb up the beast and ram into the monster's brain, all the while avoiding Chaos's attacks and keeping your ring count from hitting 0, which will instantly cause a death. This is all the while the main theme of the game, Open Your Heart, plays, which really ups the climactic feeling of the fight. After his defeat, Chaos returns to a benevolent state and sees Tikal and the Chow, who together leave for the afterlife. With the day saved, Sonic heads off to his next adventure. Wait, but Station Square is still in ruins. This means Egg Butter can build Robotnik Land now, right? Well, regardless, this ends the main story of Sonic Adventure. Of course, we aren't quite done with this game yet, as we do have one more thing to talk about. In 2003, after the death of the Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure would be re-released on the Nintendo GameCube as Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, sporting changes, additions, and enhancements from the original Dreamcast release. This version would then serve as the basis for a PC port in 2004, then that version would be used for the HD port of the game for Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network in 2010, then, in 2011, the HD version would be ported back to PC via Steam. Each time SADX got ported, it led to more and more issues popping up. The lighting received a noticeable downgrade, textures were changed in the most odd of places, and those degraded over time with each port job, the audio got worse, and the game became more buggy. The models for Sonic & Co. were made higher poly, but I personally like the way that they looked in the Dreamcast version. The HD version doesn't even properly display in widescreen, which is so weird to me. It's why most people will tell you that if you choose to play this game, you're better off picking either the original Dreamcast version or getting the better SADX mod pack for the Steam version. Okay, so the DX version is kinda stinky, but it did bring some nice additions and changes. For starters, a reward was added for getting every emblem in the game, which is a playable Metal Sonic, although he's just a reskin for Sonic with no real changes to make him special. Also, the more emblems you obtain, you start to unlock Game Gear Sonic games to play, which is nice, but that's all it is really. Changes made to the Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure 2 Battle were also carried over, and in the GameCube version, you could actually move your Chow between the two games. Perhaps the most notable addition was the mission mode. All of the characters can find these missions that they can partake in, and there are a variety of them to choose from, but you can largely ignore this unless you're going for 100%. Other than that, that's all. Sonic Adventure had one hell of a journey getting made. The road to Sonic's first 3D game was rocky, but once it came out, I think they nailed it pretty well. While some things are sloppy, and the piss-poor port jobs done to this game make it less playable nowadays, the base Dreamcast version is fantastic. I have found myself multiple times booting up this game and playing several levels over and over again because of how much I enjoy them. Is it perfect? Well, of course not, no game is, but I would still say that the vast majority of this game is fun. It's only Big I don't enjoy playing as, but Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Gamma are all enjoyable in their own ways. The optional side stuff like the missions in the Chow Garden add some nice things you can do to break up the action at your own leisure. At the end of the day, for the Blue Blur's first time going 3D, Sonic Team managed to make something that is a blast to play all of these years later. After SA1 was released worldwide, Sonic Team began work on a follow-up that would not only refine the adventure formula, but would wind up being the swan song of the Sega Dreamcast as it would release after the console's untimely demise. So I hope you'll join me next time as we tackle Sonic Adventure 2. Be sure to subscribe if that sounds interesting to you, and leave a like and a comment should you choose. With all of that said, have a great day or night. Peace.